Well, kids, it's live stream time. I hope you guys can hear me or something. I'm gonna start the stream proper in a couple of minutes, like 2 minutes. Just give people a chance to show up if they still want to show up. And yeah, I'm gonna be continue working on the character I've been doing for the past couple of live streams. Hope you can all hear me all right. And how are you guys doing? Hi, everyone. Hey, Flick. Hi, Murdoch. Angry Teapot. Leroy, I assume. Hey, Neo Vatan, I think. And Fizzy Mutt. I'm gonna forget that Hello Jinxie is Fizzy Mutt at some point. Sorry about that. My brain is not working well today. Oh yeah, chill is a good mood for today. I had a headache for most of today. It's a little bit less now, I think. I hope at least. But I'm probably not going to be live streaming for very long. Any ideas? Also, don't mind the fizzing sound. That's just my sparkling water. I don't know, it helps a little bit against my headache. Also, Angry Teapot, cool. What kind of tutorial are you making? What kind of Blender tutorial? Also, I should switch to the other window. Yes, I hope you guys can still hear me. Nothing should have changed, it's still the same microphone, but yeah. It's bunny time. Whoop. Lilac is looking just the same way she looked when I last worked on her. Ooh, Angry Teapot, that sounds pretty cool. Any shape eye rigs. I don't rig eyes very often. When I do, almost all my characters have spherical eyes, so it's not as important for me. But it definitely seems like an interesting rig to have, because I think there's been 1 or 2 times where I had a character with like stretched eyes, and it was a problem. So yeah, when you're done, like, share it on the Discord or something. So I'm noticing there's like a little blue dot, I think. It's grease pencil. Oh, also I should turn on screencast keys. Yeah. Good. Oh yeah, you're back, Paul Henry. Welcome back. This time I'm actually like genuinely streaming when I said I'd stream. Just for you guys here. Yeah, it was a speck of annotation. I swear, I do not understand what is the problem with navigation, why I keep just zooming out or going somewhere completely different. And it's gonna take me a hot second to get used to Blender's navigation controls again, because I've been working in ZBrush again a bit. I'm working on some characters for my portfolio for school. Oh. God, I I get so used to having my muscle memory for one piece of software. And then struggling as soon as I change it. Also, buy flour, have fun in class. Oh. It's not on D. D to quickly switch objects. The original hotkey for that is not D. I changed it at some point during the last stream. Or the stream before that. But I forgot what the original was. Also, if there's noise in the background, that's because I don't live alone, so there's occasionally sounds from people rearranging the kitchen or something like that. Yeah, Angry 2 Pod, I'd imagine that it's a bit hard to export. I guess it would export if you could export it if you baked the entire animation into the mesh. But yeah, I can't imagine the bones would bake well. But that sounds cool anyway. So yeah, when you're done with that, definitely link it in the Discord or something. Also, hi Rogue Jekyll, welcome to the stream. Also, what's quite lovely is I still quite like how the face looks. Which, very often if I'm working on a character and then I come back to them like a week later or something like that, I wouldn't like how they look anymore. So if I still like the character's face after a week, that's always a very good sign that I've gotten something that works. Also, if I don't talk much today, like I mentioned earlier, I had a bit of a headache and still have a little bit of a headache, so this is mostly just gonna be like me sculpting occasionally or like constantly the sounds of my keyboard, because the mic is definitely picking that up, and the music in the background, and like responding to chat occasionally, answering questions and stuff like that. Nope. I keep pressing S instead of F when I want to resize my brush. I do like the fact that in Blender, when you press F, you don't have to like use an extra slider to manipulate your brush size. It just automatically gets bigger and smaller. That's quite nice. I wonder, I'm gonna give this quadrimesher another go, see if I can make it work. Or there's not really much about, you can't really make it work, it either works or it doesn't, but I mean, it's not terrible. XB, GT, yeah, I remesh the head and neck of the characters together because I don't like having this like really sharp boundary between them. But I usually leave it for relatively late and then remesh them together at a really high resolution. Same thing with the ears. Yeah, as I said, I don't like the boundary between them, but it's easier to work with them while they're separate. So I keep them separate for as long as possible. You know what? This quadrimesh wasn't actually terrible. I can work with this. No. What I can't work with is Blender's hotkeys. Honestly, at this point, if I were to get like the quadrimesh add-on that uses essentially the same kind of system as the ZBrush, Blender sculpting would probably be pretty viable for me if I wanted to switch back to Blender from ZBrush. They're not that different all in all. ZBrush is a bit nicer, but at this point Blender has most of the features ZBrush has. And I'm just more used to everything else in Blender than ZBrush. ZBrush's menus and stuff are so confusing. Hello Jinxie. I'm not using, oh yeah, you were Fizzymut, right? This is not an add-on, this is just default Blender 3.0, I think. I can't think of anything in here that's an add-on. The only thing I use that's a bit unusual is the quadrimesher, but I use the one that's in Blender, not the add-on version. The add-on version is just a bit better, or like a lot better from what I've heard, and yeah. Fizzymut. It looks like you have more tools than I have more tools than you have. I don't know, maybe my menu was just like a bit different, but these are the default tools in Blender 3.0. Like, I don't know, depending on what version of Blender you're using, there might be less. But this is the newest version and these are all default tools. And I should turn, if you notice while I'm sculpting here, might leave some marks on the inside, so I'm gonna turn on back face auto masking. Oh no, front face is already on. Oh yeah, UI layout might be it. Their UI layout can make a lot of stuff look different. I'm not getting this ear to look nice and smooth, which is a bit annoying. It's getting there though. Nope, wrong brush once again. Oh, my icons are more colorful. That's kind of weird because I'm using the default theme. Oh yeah, if you have 2.93, I guess. I think they've changed it a little bit since then. That makes sense. So like I said earlier, or at least like I meant to say earlier, I don't know if I actually said it, this is gonna be a shorter stream because I'm tired today for reasons I'm not quite sure about, honestly, because I slept the correct amount and I've been drinking a lot of water. I ate food at some point today, but I also don't really feel particularly hungry. But I'm just not feeling great, so yeah, gonna be a shorter stream, maybe like an hour or an hour and a half, all in all. The new update was just like 2 weeks ago or something like that. That's a guess, it could be more. It's 5 AM here. Damn, that's early. It's 7 PM here. Okay, ear number 1 is now smooth. And this weird quad remesher actually worked out. So I'm gonna try the same thing with the other ear. See how it do. Hello Jinxie. When I retopologize, how do I do all the first strands? Honestly, if I plan to retopologize a model, I usually try and avoid having a bunch of individual first strands. I either do them so they're completely flat to the model so I can just bake them into a normal map, or I have them like the hair on the top here that I just keep them as separate pieces. But trying to retopologize around bits like this is a pain. Hi Julio and Paul Henry. Yeah, you have Blender 3.0. Yeah, I was a bit late to update Blender actually, but I did eventually update. I was kind of scared it might break one of my projects I was working on, but it didn't so far. Everything is fine. I really like the grid for the remesher. Really wish ZBrush had that. Though what I miss with the remesher in Blender compared to Dynamesh in ZBrush is Dynamesh automatically does stuff like fill holes, and I kind of miss having that. So Fizzymut here, let's see. Yeah, my fox, I wouldn't even like attempt to start retopologizing that. Let's see, let me open up a picture of it. That would just be death. That would be a very bad time. Especially, yeah. Here he is, here's the boy. Yeah, it's like, especially because some stuff is like half connected, and half not connected. Like this sculpt was made without any intention of retopologizing it, so that's why I remesh stuff together, because it didn't really matter that much how stuff connects. Oh, a cube. But yeah, the only time I've ever really retopologized a character that has fur that's sort of connected to the rest of the body was one of the commissions I made, one of the earlier commissions I made. This guy. So, here the mane is retopologized, but for one, this is relatively high poly, and also it was a huge pain to do, and I suffered a lot, so I wouldn't recommend it. If you can, just sculpt in a way that makes retopology easy, and by that I mean avoid having a bunch of like detailed strands connected to the main mesh. Back to chat. Julio Rarero, that's probably not the correct way to pronounce that, but asks any tips for sculpting feathers for stylized birds. Honestly, I'm not sure. I haven't done really anything with feathers. Well, at least not much. Let's see. Let me take a look-see through my gallery and see if I've ever made anything with feathers, so I could give you an advice on how I did that. But I can think of like 2 characters that I've made that had wings. But they were all yeah, there's this one, but that's just manually sculpted, and I'm not sure if that's gonna work for you. Otherwise, I'd probably just say model, box model like a basic feather, and maybe use multi-resolution to sculpt in more detail if you need it, and then just duplicate that around and on the wing to like make it into a proper wing. Hello, do you have Fizzymut? Yeah, sculpted fur like this does tend to look a bit odd animated. Works better on stylized. It works on very stylized stuff, where if it just moves around a tiny little bit. But yeah, it can very easily look like chest tentacles. Definitely hard to make look correct. Yeah. Anyway, back to what I was doing. I was working on the ear. This ear, still not smooth. Nope, and I'm doing it again with accidentally scaling instead of... Yeah, it looks best for like still renders or even things like turntables or something like that, as long as it's not, as long as the character isn't moving in a way that the fur should be moving, then it looks fine. Though there is like occasionally there is like game art and stuff that has characters with this kind of fur, and I've definitely seen it work. Like, it's not impossible to make it look good. Let me see if I can find an example really quickly. No, can't find any. I have a tendency to not save stuff even if it would be useful. But yeah. Anywho, back to this sculpt. I have a whole lot of stuff that's just not smooth. Now it's smooth. Lovely. Wonder if it might just be easier to take the top ear and duplicate it to make the floppy ear, but I don't think so. Fortnite werewolf. I don't know. I don't play Fortnite, and I don't really often look at Fortnite art. I do have reference folders, but I don't have that much, I don't think, 3D furry art in my reference folders, which is slightly weird. Or, I say reference folders, most of my references are just in PureRef files. I used to have reference folders, and then I never actually used them, because when I wanted to make an artwork, I just make a new PureRef file with specific images for that artwork. So at this point I just shove all the useful images into one PureRef file. And I can reuse that for different characters and like just add more images or remove them as I need. Let's see, how does this part connect up to the head? I don't actually know. Wait, let me look it up real quick so I can get a picture how it looks. It would help if I could type, but sadly I cannot. Yeah, it's a pretty cool style, but I can definitely see that looking a lot like stone, I guess, animated. Though I guess the human characters and stuff too also just have static hair most of the time, I would assume, so it just be how it do or something. Let's see. Crash for cave. Skin. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like if that were rigged and animated, it could actually look cool. Like, I think they could avoid making it look like super static. But that would require a lot of extra rigging and like physics, so I can't imagine it would be very optimized. And yeah, it does have similar fur to mine on the shoulders. I think they made it in a relative, just looking at the single image I have of it, it looks like they made it in a way that it could be retopologized without dying, because it's more or less in one line, not layered on top of each other. Anyway, back to chat. Uncommon sense. I'm glad my videos have helped you. It's always very nice to hear. I'm always like, I get a bit anxious that's like, people don't actually get much learning wise from my videos, I guess, because they're just time lapses with a little bit of narration. But it seems that quite a few people actually seem to enjoy them, which is always nice. And Julio, do I specialize on stylized characters or stylized animals too? I occasionally do stylized animals. I don't do them very often, but I can. I think the most recent one I did was the cat I did for Halloween. That's a stylized animal. I'm quite happy with how she turned out too. It's cute. But yeah, other than that, I don't do, as I said, I don't do like fully animals very often. I do a lot of anthropomorphic animals, so like fairy characters, I guess. I do dragons, though I don't sculpt dragons a lot because it's a bit of a pain with like the amount of detail and scales. Then I very occasionally do humans. I do humans in my own like free time more than I do humans on stuff I record for YouTube. Like when I was learning ZBrush, I worked on a few human characters, but I never I didn't record that, so that didn't go up on YouTube. Though if you follow me on like Twitter, you will have seen the humans. Fizzymut says not many YouTubers do anthro stylized art, especially not 3D art, and talk about their process. Yeah, I noticed that, especially when I'm like looking up stuff myself, because I want to, like, I enjoy watching people's processes to learn how they do stuff, even if it's not narrated, to just like see how people approach different problems and like learn something from them. I don't always then go and do it exactly like people did it, but just getting an idea of like the different options of approaching different things is always good. Anyway, I have noticed that there aren't that many 3D character YouTubers, 3D anthro YouTubers. So yeah, I'm glad I can fill that niche a little bit. On Common Sense, yeah. If you know the basics, time lapses are really good. That's how I feel most of the time. Like, I rarely, at this point, since I know most of how the software I use works, I rarely watch like full tutorials because I don't need all the information in them. But just seeing how people approach different things, or like what order people do stuff in and stuff like that, is always really useful. Oh, and Tails and Tails asks, do I animate? Very rarely. It's like I very occasionally enjoy spending like maybe an hour or 2 or 3 like making a character I've already made move, but I actually enjoy the earlier parts of the process more. Just the sculpting and modeling a character. Like, I can spend several weeks on sculpting a character and even retopology and a bit of rigging too, but when it comes to animation, I don't have any patience. It's not something I enjoy enough to really sink too much time in. I want to learn it a bit better, just because I think it's a cool skill to have. But yeah, it's not something I do much. Fizzymon, yeah, speaking of, yeah, 3D, like, anthro YouTubers and VTubers, I was also surprised because, like, I was, a while ago, I was looking into VR chat because since I do commissions, I figured it would be useful to be able to rig a character for VR chat, and there are so many, furry models and stuff on VR chat and all that stuff, but it's so hard to find anything on YouTube about like how they're made, how they're imported and exported and all that stuff. Was very weird. Yeah, the shape was better before. Yay, Julio, I'm really glad my videos could help you. I actually want to start on in uni soon, hopefully. Part of the reason I've been doing live streams for the past 3 weeks is because I haven't really been making that much like finished art that I could be making into time lapses like regular videos and stuff. So because I've been working on stuff to put in my reel, and things like for YouTube, usually if I'm very busy with like life, I can just make like super quick one-off artworks that I'll put on the channel, like that take me maybe a day or so. But right now my art brain is very occupied with the stuff I'm doing for that reel, so interrupting that to work on other things just for the channel is not great. The Angry Teapot, they keep it secret so they can make money. Honestly, sometimes it feels like that. Though usually I think it's just because I feel like I sometimes overestimate the amount of YouTube, the amount of artists that like record their process. Because like the vast majority of people just don't record the process of making art. It's like a very small portion that do. So, and especially with like the VR avatar stuff, it seems like there are a lot of people, but I guess it's somebody mentioned earlier, I think a lot of them are just, they're essentially reusing and editing the same models, or a lot of them are just from a handful of people. Like they aren't, I guess they aren't as many people doing it as it seems, so they aren't there aren't as many like videos explaining it. Plus I guess it's also just one of those things where the people creating the content, like people doing VTuber stuff, aren't necessarily the artists themselves. So the artists themselves just aren't necessarily into making content and stuff. And it can be actually hard to balance. Like, running a YouTube channel is a whole lot of work because it's like all the editing and managing the channel, keeping up with a somewhat regular schedule, at least if you want the channel to go somewhere, I guess. Yeah, so it's a lot of work. It's worth it. I've mostly been enjoying it, but I get why not that many people do it. Like, it's relatively straightforward if it's like the way I worked early on, where it was just like I would record whatever it is I was working on and then just make a super quick time lapse and upload that with the same standard music. But as soon as you put more effort, it gets it takes a lot of time. I'm not sure if Blender has a quick way to symmetrize a model. If you're using dynamic topology, you can. But other than that, I usually just add a mirror modifier, apply it, and then remesh if I want to symmetrize my mesh, which probably isn't like the best way to do it. Anyway, it's really time. I'm procrastinating. I hate merging my models. Nothing bad ever happens when I do. But it's always like the most stressful time of sculpting because I can't go back and undo it. Well, I can undo it, but like it makes it harder to edit all the individual parts. And it feels like a big step always. Anyway. Oh yeah, Flower's back, class is over. Welcome back. Hope the class was fun or something like that. Yeah, Fizzymut. I get that a lot, that it's like I see someone's art and think, oh, this is really cool art, and then I realize I'm already following them. And yeah, Uncommon Sense editing is a pain. It's easier if you're just making pretty much just a time lapse, since there's not a whole lot of scrubbing through footage, but as soon as you're like adding a voiceover or anything like that, it takes ages. Lojingxi, a mirror modifier. If you know any better way to quickly symmetrize my mesh in sculpt mode, feel free to tell me. I'm glad I'm not the only one who procrastinates on merging different parts of the sculpt together, though. Makes me feel less lonely. Oh. Well then, I guess it's time. Oh, no point in waiting any longer. Let's apply this. Grab this. And I'm gonna save first. And then I'm gonna make myself a scrap folder. Or I already have a scrap folder, but I'm gonna delete the stuff that's in the scrap folder because I didn't need it. Oh. And then I'm actually not gonna delete the scrap folder because it actually contains things that like other stuff is parented to, which was a terrible idea. Anyway, back to chat. Yeah, I usually have this folder called scrap, not old, but same difference. Zeet. Good. And yeah, 3D artists are a small world. Yeah, it's another one of those things. I overestimate how many 3D artists there are. Like, there's a lot more 2D people than 3D people. Which also kind of makes it a cool skill to have. Like, drawing is just a lot more accessible in general. Like, I started out drawing. For 3D art, you need, you instantly need a computer unless you're working with like clay and stuff, which paper and pencils are easier to get than clay. And if you're working digitally, I mean, you can start painting on like a phone or something. But 3D art, you need a pretty decent PC. Not the best thing, it doesn't have to be like the best PC. My laptop I was working with for quite a few years was like 4 GB of RAM and internal graphics, and was like really bad. But it's nicer to have a good PC for 3D art. So there are really just not that many people who do it. Harder to get into. Joao Passos, yeah, I don't, I think stylized 2D shaders are also just really hard to make. The thing is, with 2D shaders, like, I see them a lot on Twitter with like like a whole bunch of different like anime artists that just have really good like stylized like toon shaders kind of for their models, but that's the only place I ever see them. Like I don't know where to get them, or I haven't seen any like tutorials on YouTube on how to make them or anything like that. Yeah, it's weird. But it's also not something I've looked super deep into because I don't really like, I prefer 3D art that's just regular 3D shaded, because I feel like most 2D shaders are just gonna look weird unless you have a whole bunch of like custom normals and all that stuff. So yeah. Rogue Jackal, yeah, 3D software is expensive. Like, obviously there's Blender, which is pretty dope. I mean, I don't know how long Blender has been usable. I started with Blender in 2.79, and it was fine. It was at least fine to sort of get into 3D art as someone who hadn't really done it before and didn't have like specific needs. Oh god, this looks like such a mess. Oh yeah, but wait, the reason it looks like a mess because I haven't hidden my scrap layer there. It still looks like a mess, but now it's I wonder why I have all this duplicated stuff. Just gonna delete it. Weird. Very bad at managing my models. Let's see. Kamvas in the tool tab. There's a symmetrize option. Let us see. Symmetry. There is in fact a symmetrize option. I feel like I knew that existed at some point and then I forgot again. Because now that you mention it's there, it seems so familiar. But like, thanks. I'll try and remember this time. Intel graphics for the win. I now have an NVIDIA. I have an RTX 2070 in my custom built rig that I made myself with my dad. I'm very proud of it. It has an ugly fan that's beige and brown. It has lights on the graphics card, and it has a big ass tempered glass panel, and it makes me happy because I made it myself, and it has been serving me very well for the last 3 years. Yeah, something like that. Anyway. Also Flick mentioned something about an Asus with display tablet laptop combo. That's similar to the thing I had. I had the laptop I had used for a while was it was from Acer, I think. It was essentially the Acer equivalent of a Microsoft Surface. But like, I wouldn't really recommend it. I would actually, if you're getting into making art, 2D or 3D, I'd recommend getting a regular laptop, not a tablet. Like a regular laptop and a pad tablet. Because A, that's cheaper, and most of the time it's actually still like better for art than one of those touchscreen tablet laptops. More chat. Ooh, yeah, Fizzy mentioned it earlier. It's really hard to convert 2D into 3D. Yeah, because 2D, like, it looks accurate, but it never is. It really is the case. I think recently, for the Blender Open movie, I looked at the ArtStation page at what's his face, Julian Casper's ArtStation page, because I was looking for like references for very stylized 3D characters. And if you look at like some animations they did from the camera view versus from the front view, like looking at them from the front view when the animation is made for the camera view looks so weird because the proportions like completely shift around and look completely nonsense, because it's supposed to work on a 2D screen. Like, it's supposed to work in 2 dimensions, not 3 dimensions. So like 2D and 3D, weird. Let's see. Tails and Tails asks, what is my favorite sculpt? They asked that a while ago, but I'm only slowly like backtracking through chat. Let's see. I don't really know. I assume you mean like my favorite of my sculpts. I don't know. I don't really have a favorite, I don't think. It changes a lot. I really like the fox. I really like the red dragon I made still. Those are probably up there. Yeah, I'd say one of those two. Then also Fizzy Mutt, it's a bit late, but you can post the link to the Toon Shader playlist. I'm not sure if you actually can. Wait, I'm just gonna copy the Discord link you sent and put that in chat, since it's a YouTube. Here is the stylized Toon Shader playlist. Toon Shader playlist. And more questions. The price of 3D software shouldn't be a concern, really. Buying it should be a no-brainer for getting money out of it. Yeah. It's like, it's expensive if you're someone who isn't yet making money with it, is the issue with 3D software. Like, obviously, if you have a free thing like Blender or you're just pirated, that's not an issue. But if you're not making money with it, or you're just making like small commissions here and there, it is very expensive. Tails and Tails asked, do I make money on YouTube? A little bit, like 30-ish a month, depending on the month. Let me see, I can look at my last like YouTube studio. Here's a YouTube inside news or something like that. Yeah, it's not much at this point, but I got like partnered in March and it's gone up since then. Yeah, it's about 35 euros. Around about. It's nice. It's not much, as I said, but it's a nice bit of extra pocket money, shall we say. Also, my dad, a 3D artist, No. XP. Well, no, this is all. I guess it's all discussions from ages ago. Bad flower. From experience, most laptops use triangulation, which does a good job preventing palm touch, but it makes it physically impossible to make straight lines. Yeah, that's pretty much the kind of experience I had with my laptop, which is why I wouldn't recommend using them if you're why I wouldn't recommend getting one of those if you're starting out with with art in general. It looks pretty cool, but the pens don't compare to even just like a cheap pad tablet. Let's see. Yeah, Fizzy Mutt. You add a 2D character and it's not perfect in 3D from all angles. Yep, that's it. It be how it do. Like, I'm not sure if I can find any, but if you look up like 3D anime and look how the models have to be warped so that it looks correct from all the angles, it's it's really funny to look at. Zhao, yeah, Maya costs legit half a month of minimum wage in my country. Honestly, they're really expensive there. That's like what I was part of what I was talking about earlier, that they're so expensive that they're pretty much inaccessible unless you pirate in a lot of places. Because they're like, for 2D art, there's so many more free or cheap options available. But for 3D art, it's Blender, and everything else is like a couple $100 at least, and that's like per month or per year. Uncommon Sense, should I get ZBrush or can I be good with Blender? Depends on what you're making. Right now, I think Blender is pretty good. I think if I got the quad remesh add-on, I could probably do all my work in Blender. Technically, like, ZBrush is a bit better. It has a couple of like extra features and stuff that make it more useful, and it's better at managing high poly stuff, but depending on like your budget and how willing you are to commit piracy, ZBrush is probably worth it. I got ZBrush because I'm at a point where I can, like, I do enough commissions that I can afford it, so yeah. Tails and Tails asks, what is my YouTube goal? I don't really have a YouTube goal in subs. It started and it pretty much just is like a side thing for me. Just like a place to put the art I've made. And like share the process, because I really like watching like time lapses and stuff from other people. So I figured I'd like give back, but I don't really have a specific goal. It would be cool if I make enough money from it that it would like matter. But yeah, as I said, no specific goals here. Let's see. This be enough. Let's see if we can remesh without crashing. Uncommon Sense. I got a trial version of ZBrush for a while, but the thing is, ZBrush UI is so confusing and unintuitive to begin with, that like in the time that you have a trial version, you probably won't reach the point of making anything much, because you'll just be suffering through the menus. At least that's my experience. Flower. I just read through Betflower's comment, and like, yes, the exact same problem. I'm glad I'm not the only one who has this issue with ZBrush. Because like in order to actually use ZBrush and not die, you need to like set up your custom menu, put all your brushes in sensible places, figure out the 5,000 menus and where all the important options are, and watch like 10 hours of tutorials. Not something you can reasonably do in like, how long is the trial period? I'm not sure if it's 2 weeks or a month, but either way. Yeah, it's 30 days. Yeah, Fizzy Mutt. Annoying customers sounds like a huge pain. I personally, like, I get money if I'm doing a commission. I get at least part of the money before I start. And, like, I make sure I have all of the money before I've put a huge amount of time in, so I don't get someone just, like, running off refusing to pay. But yeah, I'm very scared of that happening. Like, no one has tried so far, but I'm still very scared of that kind of thing happening. Tails and Tails. This is just a personal model. This was on the first live stream. I asked like what kind of character I should make, and a whole bunch of people said bunny, so I decided to sculpt my one bunny character I have, Lilac, who I've also sculpted before. Harlathan, I love having sculpting in the background while you're sculpting. Yeah, it's pretty chill having sculpting while you're sculpting. For some reason, I prefer having all kinds of other stuff on while I'm sculpting or painting. Like completely random stuff that's not related, podcasts about science, music sometimes, a lot of the time just like random Let's Plays. Especially like Let's Plays where the gameplay isn't super interesting, but like the commentary is interesting, or there's occasionally like character dialogue that's interesting. So I don't constantly look away from what I'm actually doing, but I have background noise, because if I don't have anything in the background while I'm working, I feel like I distract myself easily. Like I need to be half distracted in order to not get completely distracted. This is also the excuse I used to draw in class. It worked for everyone except my German teacher. Fizzy Mud, if I were to animate, how would I cut the mouth? Honestly, that's a question I ask myself too a lot of the time. For another character I sculpted, or let's say, let's begin with, in the past, what I would usually do is essentially mask out here. I would mask out essentially the mouth here and rotate it around to the side to an open position, and then boolean out the inside so that I have the sculpt in the open position. But that makes it difficult to close it later while rigging and animating, because if you sculpt the mouth open, like, I have the tendency to push the lower lips and the lower jaw too far back, because having it the right amount forward always looks weird. So then later while rigging and animating, stuff just doesn't fit together well. And then recently what I did for a character I was working on is I essentially used a boolean. That was in ZBrush, not in Blender. I used a boolean to carve out the hollow of the inside of the mouth so that the mouth was pretty much in a closed position in the sculpt with just like a tiny crack. The lips open just a tiny crack. So gotta see how that's gonna work out with retopology and stuff, but I'm gonna figure that out when I get there. Yep. Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Fizzy mutt. Yep, that's the best way to go through school. Luckily, I didn't distract other people. I manage also not to get distracted that much myself. No, I'm not trying to scale. I'm trying to resize my brush. Please let me resize my brush. Let's see other stuff. The creative technologist asked, you tried asking through Discord if commissions are available, but commissions aren't. Yeah. I was planning to reopen them, like, in January, but I'm waiting for some information from the tax office, so I haven't been able to open them yet. I'll probably start on commissions again in a couple of days. Like, I'm gonna contact the tax office probably on Monday and also like start working on commissions then. But I have a couple of people on a wait list already, so I wouldn't like officially reopen my commissions until I've done those ones, so it might be a while. Tails and Tails, you don't know how it would work with animation, but you know nothing about animation. Like, this model, as it is, probably wouldn't work for animation at all, just because it's too high res and it doesn't have proper topology and everything like that. But in theory, I could take the steps to make it an animatable model, but I'm not planning to. This is just like a one-off sculpt. And on common sense, animation is the most unintuitive thing in the world to me. It's relatively intuitive to me, at least like the basic animation. I get along with things like follow through and squash and stretch okay, but it's just like a really long process for me. When I'm working on stuff, I like feeling like progress is being made. And that works all right with sculpting and painting, but with animation, it feels like it takes too long and not that much of substance is happening. So it's not really something I enjoy that much. Harleton, I've never taken a proper class on 3D art. No, I've learned with tutorials and stuff online and just by like trying stuff out. Tutorials, time lapses, and yeah, trying stuff. I do plan on going to university for like animation and concept art. So I'm gonna be focusing on 3D art there. It's a very interesting uni. It's like you start your, like you choose a specific field. In my case, I chose concept art because I think that's closest to what I'm interested in. But a lot of the actual things you learn, you decide that yourself, and like they bring in outside people to teach. So I'm hoping to learn a bit more of like the technical or industry standard 3D stuff there that it is harder to find on YouTube. Well then, hello Jinxie. I've managed to keep all my accounts with the same name, which is very good, except my Instagram account that has a V in front of it. But yeah, other than that, I use Roser Tiger everywhere. And I have been using Instagram anyway, so it doesn't matter. Aguineo, I think that's correct. I hope it's correct. Isn't it painful to sculpt without symmetry? It is. But I sculpted this whole thing with symmetry on. I just turned off symmetry now that I've merged everything together, and I want to add in the final details and like fix up the facial expressions, so for that symmetry needs to be off. Unreal can't handle a whole bunch of polygons at once. Apparently Unreal Engine 5 can, but I don't know. I watched the like trailer for Unreal Engine 5. That looks pretty cool, but I can't imagine that like even using Unreal 5, it's gonna be super smart to use really high poly models constantly. Like even if it's really efficient at handling them. Plus, like even if it works for static models, I doubt it would work for characters. Like as soon as something has to deform, yeah, probably not gonna go very well. Oh, wanted to smooth this out, but I have to like actually zoom in to smooth it without losing my crease. Or I can smooth it out and just re-add the crease afterwards. Might be easier. That's the only problem with like remeshing at a really high resolution, is that if the mesh was lower resolution first, it essentially keeps the shapes of the original polygons there. Yeah, Rogue Jackal, Nanite can't support skin meshes. I would be quite surprised if it, like, well, I wouldn't say I'll be quite surprised if it ever supports skin meshes, but It's definitely a lot easier to like handle a completely static thing than something that's moving or even less deforming. Like, I genuinely wonder how pipelines and stuff are gonna change if studios start using like UE5 and Nanite, because it's one of those things that it looks too good to be true, that you can just have like a 20 million poly rock and it won't at all affect your like it won't at all be bad for the game and unoptimized. But I don't know. Joao, why don't you use dynamic topology? Remesh is better. It's also faster, importantly. And it's easier to keep a model smooth because with remesh, everything has an even resolution. So it's relatively smooth by default. With dynamic topology, like I always get weird bumpy bits where the resolution changes, unless I'm using dynamic topology with what's it called? Constant detail. But even then it's like I can do it with remesh. Like, there are a handful of situations where it's worth using it. Like if I'm using the snake hook tool, turning on dynamic topology is good, but other than that, prefer yeah, remesh is just faster. Well, not faster, but less laggy and more chill. Easier to keep smooth. Oh yeah, but I guess that actually makes a lot of sense. Like, so you can essentially bring your really high poly models into Unreal to like test things out, and then for the final product, you still have your regular like levels of details and stuff like the LOD models and stuff like that. Yeah, that seems a lot more sensible actually. But I don't know much about technical 3D stuff, so who am I to say? Ugh. Keep pressing the wrong button. I should probably like hide part of the mesh if I'm gonna be sculpting the eyes. Or I could like make face sets, but that's probably not worth it for this model. Since it's almost done at this point. I think I'm also gonna like use vertex paints to paint it. Or to like take a look at Blender's default vertex paint and see how frustrating they are, and then I'll if they inevitably disappoint me, or I say when they inevitably disappoint me, I'll download the alpha version of Blender and I guess show you how to show you guys where the actual good vertex paints are. Oh, nope. Once again, doing the thing. And oh yeah, Qkazu says hi. Hi. And hi gaming time with Adrian Wolf. I guess Adrian. Yeah, Jinxie, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I thought this was a short stream. The thing is, I don't like have anywhere to be, so it doesn't have to be a short stream. It's just I announced it to be a short stream because I wasn't feeling so well. But I'm feeling okay right now, so I can stream for a little while longer. Maybe till like 8:45 or something like that, which is in 15 minutes. Maybe another half hour, we'll see. Betagast, yeah. Is there a sculpt branch again? Or because the last couple times I've just been getting the vertex paint from the regular alpha. Let's see. Experimental. There's 3.0 alpha, active builds, archived builds. No, I don't actually see a sculpt branch here. So it's yeah, I just for painting I just use the regular alpha. Or maybe like you know something that I don't. God, I have so many tabs open, I can't find the tab that has chat. Jinxie. No, I don't have COVID. I'm a hermit. I don't see people. No, I'm pretty sure I don't have COVID. Just feeling generally meh. I didn't sleep enough. Well, I did sleep enough. The branch tab. Where is the branch tab? Let's see. I got mine from the daily builds tab. Let me see. Where is the branch tab? Oh yeah, branch. And hey, there is a sculpt colors branch and sculpt dev. I completely missed that tab exists. People never met her. A mood. It'd be like that sometimes. Oh, what is this? Oh, collections. I didn't mean to do that. What I wanted to do was Ctrl+3. Yeah. And then Ctrl+A. Apply visual geometry to mesh. And just gonna join them to make it easier. And actually, yeah, subdivide them again. Keep forgetting that inverting a brush in Blender is Control, not Alt. And maybe I should have kept them separate. Let's just undo that. Oh, and I found the tab. I just forget that it exists. Don't worry about it. That's a gust. Also, I forgot that when you, I always forget that when you add a multi-res modifier while in sculpt mode, it puts the viewport display to 0. It always takes me many hours to switch from ZBrush to Blender Brain. Like, by the time I've switched from ZBrush Brain to Blender Brain, I'm back to using ZBrush, which is a problem. God, yesterday I was sculpting, I was working with like remesher and subdivisions, which is usually very good until you reach a point where there's like a minor bug in your mesh that you want to fix. Because like, I thought it was slightly annoying, like very annoying, that you might get little bugs in multi-res if you edit the mesh. But like in ZBrush you just can't edit the mesh without freezing subdivisions. Which I did, except then I couldn't like reconstruct subdivisions, even though it was so annoying. I had zero-remeshed my model and it looked perfectly fine, so I started sculpting on it. And then at some point I noticed there was a hole, which turned out not to be a hole, just a flipped, a single face with a flipped normal. But you can't unflip a normal without freezing subdivisions. So I had to freeze subdivisions. And then when I wanted to reconstruct subdivisions, suddenly it started complaining that there were tries, but there had been tries before. So I remeshed again, but there were still tries, so it still refused to reconstruct my subdivisions. So I essentially had to start over with the whole subdividing the model, and I was very salty. So I won't ever complain about multi-res doing some stupid shit again, because like I can usually smooth that out. So far I haven't run into anything breaking in multi-res to the point that I had to completely scrap it and start over. Anyway. ZBrush is made for people who sculpt and give the model to Maya, guys. It does feel like that a lot of the time. But like, I think in reality a lot of the time character artists and stuff do both sculpting and retopology. Like, I don't think there are that many places where they have a separate person to do retopology and stuff, so whoever's doing the sculpting is also going to do that part of the technical stuff. Or maybe I'm wrong, maybe in like bigger studios it's different. Also, like, obviously people have like base meshes, so they don't have to do a complete manual retopology from scratch, but gonna lurk for a bit. That's fine. Yeah, but guys, I've heard so many people say multi-res is broken, but multi-res, the only time multi-res has ever kind of broken for me is if I like, let's duplicate this thing. And like if I like go into edit mode and like extrude something. And even then, like I extruded and it worked fine. Like I made a whole ass change to this sculpt. I mean, I haven't done much to this mesh, but like even if I do and like go into edit mode and make like changes to the topology, or like let's say insert a bunch of faces, like this isn't broken, this is fine. Like obviously it turned out a little bit messy on the spot that I inset, but like I can smooth that out. It's gone. It's yeah, I don't get why people say multi-res is broken. It's so much, like it's very functional. The only time it ever breaks is if you do something like really big in edit mode, and even then, like usually you can just smooth it out. I don't understand why people complain about multi-res. Perfectly. The only thing that, like, the only problem I have with multi-res in Blender is the fact that there's no quick way to get a good remesh, and like a good sort of base topology for multi-res. There's the inbuilt quad remesher, but unless you have a really simple mesh like my ear over there, it's not very good. Like it struggles with things like fingers and limbs in general. But like I've made characters before, or at least one character, where I did the base sculpt using the regular voxel remesh, and then manually retopologized and then added detail with multi-res, and that worked perfectly fine. Didn't have any issues. Hello Jinx asks, what is multi-res? It's a modifier. It's essentially like a subdivision surface modifier, except you can sculpt on the subdivisions. So like, yeah, you can turn the display up and down, but the main thing is that you can sculpt on the higher levels of details, versus with a normal subdivision surface modifier, you have to apply it in order to sculpt. So this, I think of all the ways to sculpt, this is the one that's at high resolutions especially is the fastest, but you need to have a good base mesh in order to use it. But guys, yeah, the paid remesh add-on I think is just straight up the same kind of algorithm as the Z-remesher in ZBrush, which if it is would be pretty dope. But yeah, it's expensive. Hello Jinxie, that is very useful for game art. Wait, let's see. Let me grab the character I used it for. It's this girl here, this panda. So I essentially did all the basic shapes with just regular remesh, and then all the little fur details on the, like here on the chest and stuff like that, I did with multi-res. And that in this case that works because they're flat to the flat to the surface. That wouldn't work if it's stuff that sticks out. But yeah. I've been actually thinking about getting that add-on, but at this point, since I already have ZBrush, I might as well use that and just like have both softwares and be able to use the things both of them are good at. One thing I don't understand though, like I genuinely don't understand about ZBrush, is how people can use the ZModeler brush and like be comfortable making stuff with it. I don't understand me. Yeah, Batagast, if watching that Maxon situation and just like it's gonna see how it goes. If it goes real badly, also probably just gonna grab me that remesh add-on and stick to just Blender. Though right now I'm not using a perpetual license of ZBrush. I'm using, I think, the 6-month version, because that's a bit easier with the way I do commissions and stuff. But yeah. As long as that doesn't like get drastically more expensive, I'm probably gonna stick to it for now. But yeah, if they mess up too bad, gonna be an issue. I hope they at least like fix the UI a bit if they're gonna start taking money for updates. I like how this hair on the top looks, but I don't like that it doesn't match the fluff on her chest. I think I'm gonna keep it like that though. Or am I? I'm not sure. I'll do the ears more rounded and see if I like how that looks. And then like do them with a bit more like rounded fluffy fur like I did the chest. And then ZBrush UI. I mean, the nice thing about ZBrush UI is that it's very customizable, but that's it. That is the singular nice thing about ZBrush's UI. But like, if your basic UI is good, you don't really need it to be super customizable. Like moving around the menus, it's nice being able to pin stuff to places. But if stuff's in sensible places to begin with, that's less important. But like having to dig through so many menus for things that seem like basic options is a pain. Also, genuine question, because like by default, if you open an instance of ZBrush, like let me open ZBrush 2022 because I still haven't brought my preferences over. It's taking so long to open. Here. If I open an instance of ZBrush 2022 over here, like it starts with this weird 2.5D thing. Does anyone ever actually use this? Like, does anyone in the whole world use this feature? This weird 2.5D draw thing? Like anyone ever, because I've never seen anything by anyone using this. Like, the vast majority of people who use ZBrush seem to use it for, you know, sculpting. Why doesn't it just, like, open with a sphere? And Tails and Tails, I'm not sure if I answered this, but no, I don't have any pets currently. I used to have a dog. For repeating textures for the noisemaker, I mean, it's like the default cube. People just like delete it as soon as they open the software. True. So I guess like, but like even if people use it for textures like that, it seems like a weird thing to have just like hit people when they open the software. Because that was the weird thing, like when I first started ZBrush, it's the vast majority of even like even if you look at Pixelogic's official channel and stuff like that, the vast majority of stuff people use it for is sculpting. But then it opens on some niche tool that's very occasionally used for like textures. It's weird. Also, I'm just gonna make the fluff in her ears the way I did the one on the head. And then I'm gonna just ignore the fact that it's different from the and now I'm trying to use ctrl+d to subdivide. Which is how you do it in ZBrush. Oh, I have Bentopol on. Well, that's bad. When did Dyntopo turn on? Nope. Oh well. Oh, you have a puppy right now, but you had a Shih Tzu that passed away. Oh yeah, that sucks. We, like, our family had to move continents, and we couldn't take her along. But I'm pretty sure she's still alive. She's, we found her a new home. She's essentially became an employee of the office where my parents used to work. She lives there now, keeps the security people company, and that worked out pretty well. And Rogue Jackal, have a good night if you're not already gone. I'm probably also gonna stop pretty soon. Yeah, my throat is starting to get sore, but I am not feeling as bad as I did when I was about to start the stream. Like, you guys wouldn't know this, but like 10 minutes before the stream, I was chatting with a friend and was like not at all feeling great, but yeah, I'm pretty all right now, but still quite tired and getting a sore throat from talking. I'm not used to talking much. I usually chill at home and don't spend hours talking, so as soon as I like record long voiceovers or live stream or something like that, my throat starts to get hoarse. Q Kazu, no, I think that's the correct way of thinking, not just the Japanese way of thinking. That's what I do at the moment. The only thing is that I find it a little bit annoying to have to switch in between. I have the Gozi, like I have Gozi and the Gobi add-on for Blender, so I can switch between the two, but it can get a bit confusing with how it replaces different things, because I think it works based on the name, but in ZBrush 2 different subtools can have the same name, and in Blender 2 objects can't have the same name, so sometimes one piece won't export over, or like I'm working on something in Blender and then I'm not quite sure like how it's gonna import back to ZBrush, or stuff loses subdivisions and things like that, so it tends to be a bit confusing. Like it doesn't tend to be a bit confusing, it's sometimes a bit confusing switching back and forth between the two, but I'm slowly getting used to it. So I do the parts in Blender that I prefer doing in Blender, and then do in ZBrush the stuff that's better in ZBrush. But guys, thanks. Shape language is one of those things that I don't pay nearly enough attention to. Like, it often works out intuitively for me, fortunately. But when it doesn't, well, that kind of sucks for me, I guess. Because then I have a hard time figuring out how to fix it. But I'm glad it looks good to you. Oh, can we? Nope. Let's see. And Tails and Tails. Oh, sorry, I'm not feeling so good. It's okay. I have been worse. I'm not feeling terrible, just bad enough to be annoying. You know what? I always forget that in Blender you can just use the smooth brush to smooth your, like you can just hold shift with your mask to smooth it, which is very nice, a very practical feature. I just gotta figure out how to make this ear flop properly. Because I moved it back a bit so that it wouldn't remesh into the rest of the body. But now I gotta move it back somehow, which could be a bit difficult. What about the pose brush? Could try the pose brush. The pose brush tends to have a slightly weird fall off, which is a bit annoying. Tails and tails, I'm not sounding annoying. Oh, that's good, I guess. It's also, like, now that I'm concentrating on, like, sculpting and talking, it's not that bad. Yeah, the pose mode works well on lower res stuff, but it has a really sharp fall off, which is very annoying. And it's a bit hard to control where it's bending from. You know what, the regular old grab brush is actually pretty fine. Sometimes I forget about it in Blender, but it's very predictable. I like the elastic grab brush just for moving stuff really far, but yeah, for this part, oh wait. The grab brush is just fine actually. And nice, this all connected up pretty perfectly. And I'm gonna keep it just like this. It's not perfectly smooth, but I think it's fine. Don't really have the patience tonight to fix it. So, what do you guys think? Should I continue the stream for another like half hour or so and paint it, or should I leave that for next time? I say half hour, it would definitely end up being longer than a half an hour if I start painting it. I can give her a bit more facial expression, and then I'll end the stream after that. That's probably better. Tails and Tail asks again, do I get burnt out? I've never gotten like really completely burnt out. I occasionally lose like my inspiration or my flow on certain projects, and that tends to be really annoying. But I very rarely get like, well, I say very rarely. I don't think I've ever gotten like completely burnt out and like completely lost my motivation to do stuff. Here's a question. If I use a shape key to try out different poses for the face, is that going to go badly? Like in terms of lag? There's only one way to find out. It looks like it's gonna go badly. Yeah, one thing the elastic hook brush is really good for is, or like elastic deform, is facial expressions. Yeah, also like this shape key thing isn't working. I kind of figured. No, I didn't remove the shape key. Remove yourself. Good. I think I accidentally removed it and then added it back instead of removing both of them. XBGT, yeah, I like I mentioned earlier, I don't watch as much like art on my second screen. I usually have something else random on that where just like the audio interests me. But yeah, that helps me not get super bored of what I'm doing. Also again, sorry for another question. Questions are okay. That's what live streams are for, honestly. Like, if you ever want to really ask me a question and definitely get an answer, or well, not definitely get an answer, but likely get an answer, live stream is probably the time to do it, because that's when I'm most motivated to answer. So I assume the question is how I go about sculpting cloth. Sorry, the message is a little bit confusing. But I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. I usually just add wrinkles where I think there should be wrinkles, and that's about it. I struggle with clothes a lot though, so can't really give advice on that. This character doesn't have any clothes. She's very fluffy. Yeah, if I'm trying to do something that like requires me to read or really pay perfect attention to information, then I can't have anything on like music or anything either. But so like work and school stuff. But yeah, same like you, XBGT. Music or podcasts or whatever really good for while working on hobby stuff. Actually, I'm gonna keep those two modifiers. I don't actually need to get rid of them. So I haven't changed that much about the facial expression, but adding a tiny little bit of asymmetry usually adds to the character a bit, makes it feel a bit more alive, because humans are like alive things usually aren't perfectly symmetrical. You really only get like perfect 100% symmetry in artificial things. Dark Tomato asks, do I live stream often? I don't live stream, I don't have like a regular live stream time. I'm probably gonna continue this character next week. So like exactly 1 week from now. But like there's stretches of time where I don't live stream at all, and other times like now where I've live streamed 3 like weeks in a row, I guess. Oh, Tails and Tails, I assume you mean the cloth brush here. That's essentially just like cloth simulation, but as a sculpt brush. It's useful for a very small handful of things, but usually I just manually sculpt brush. Wait, I can show you. Let's subdivide you. I want it subdivided to like 5 or 4. 4 is probably enough. And simple, not Catmull Clerk. So if I grab the sculpt brush now, I'm not actually sure what it's set to. It's drag. Well, grab, that's a bit better. It's essentially, it simulates cloth. Should have subdivided it a bit more. No, this is actually good. It's like a gimmicky feature, I think. Like, it's cool to look at. Very occasionally you'll have situations where it's actually helpful, but most of the time it's not that useful. Because like for clothes on a character or something, it doesn't really have the kind of control you need to get those to look good. So yeah, it's just fun to mess around with a little bit. Anyway, I think this is a good stopping point for this live stream. Next week I'm gonna paint her with the Vertex paints in the lovely sculpt mode branch that Batagast reminded me exists. But I hope you guys have enjoyed it. She's really coming together. I wasn't very sure about how she was gonna look when I first started it, because I mentioned that in the very first live stream where I worked on her, but I don't think I mentioned it again after that. This is the latest artwork, like the previous artwork I made of this character. Her design has changed a bit, but that's on purpose. And it was one of my favorite sculpts for the longest time because I felt it turned out really well. And I was kind of scared of doing the character again, because usually if I do a character again, like that I've done before, I really improve it. And that's like very motivating, but I was kind of scared that if I redo this character because she turned out so good the first time, that she's not going to turn out as good. But so far I'm actually liking this version a lot more than the previous one. Which is very nice. Also, I wanted to Yeah, that works. Which is lovely because it means that I can dissolve this edge loop and use a subdivision surface modifier on this without it looking weird. Huh, the previous eyes structure reminded you of Five Nights at Freddy's style. Odd. I've never really been into Five Nights at Freddy's, so I'm not super familiar with the art. But that's cool, I guess. Anyway, I'm really happy with how this version is shaping up. She definitely looks very different, but that's kind of by design. All of my characters, like, none of them have like a super set design. They're all works in progress all the time. They all just change as my interests change and as like their stories in my head change. And for this character, like, her personality and like her who she is hasn't changed that much. But yeah, having the original design didn't match that her personality as well as I think this one does. Her expression here is a bit more like happy, I think, than the character would be. She's a bit more no nonsense, but I'm happy with it anyway. Dark Tomato says, thanks for taking time out of my day to stream. It's nice. I try to do something on my channel around this time on Thursdays, so a live stream is a fun option when I don't have something else to do. I should really do it more often because it's actually really enjoyable. Like, it's really nice. And Adrian Wolf, thanks. As I said, I'm really happy with how she's looking. Oh yeah, I wanted to try... Oh no. Hope this doesn't like crash or something. Because I accidentally clicked on the mesh with the cloth brush. Because if it crashes, it might not have autosaved because for some reason the screencast keys add-on breaks autosave. I'm just gonna let it try for a moment. I hope it doesn't like crash and lose progress now. Okay, no it didn't. That's lovely. It managed to fix itself. Great, great. I'm gonna save before anything else bad happens. Okay, one last thing before I stop is I just want to see if Blender's, like, what happens if I try and use Blender's regular vertex paints on the surface now. Let's see, vertex paint. I doubt it's gonna go well. But I just want to see. Angry Teapot, I saved, don't worry. I pressed Ctrl save like twice. I say Ctrl save, it's Ctrl S. The hotkeys to save. Let's use a gray just to see what happens. Oh, yep, nope. Yeah, there's no way. I can use regular vertex paints. Also TBGT, yeah, usually autosave works and like creates a backup in the temp folder, but I've run into an issue sometimes when I have screencast keys, the screencast keys add-on on, that for some reason autosave doesn't work, so it just does not create one of those backup files, which is very annoying. But yeah, so this was originally gonna be just like a super short 1 hour stream. It is now 2 hours and 15 minutes. But I guess that's a good sign because it means that I was actually feeling good enough to stick around for a while longer. So that's nice. I'm once again returning to the starting soon thing. It's been nice live streaming once again, chatting with all of you, answering questions. And I'll see you guys next week, I guess, when I finish up this character. I'll probably do painting and rendering then, and like crop off the lower part of the sculpt. So yeah. Christian, the backup file usually doesn't get written over, it makes several, but I don't know, something about screencast keys breaks it. Anyway, it's been fun. Hope you all have nice days or nights or whatever time it is, wherever you are. And yeah, see you guys next week.